Didn't unmute, and now it unmuted. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 109 of Tactical Crouch, KickedTripod. Volamel and Yiska here with special guest. Really special guest. This is actually a first timer. We don't have a lot of first-timer guests anymore on the show. COO of Gen.G and the Seoul Dynasty. It's Arnold Hur. Arnold, welcome to the show. Good to see you. Thank you for coming on, man.
Dude, great to be here. Super excited. I've always watched your show, and I've always wanted to always wondered what it's gonna be like to be on a show like this. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Pretty underwhelming. I agree. Yeah, it's like, oh, never mind. They have no idea what they're doing.
It's just one of us. Just one of us.
Yeah. So, hey everybody, welcome to episode 109. Big thank you to everybody who's hanging out. And I don't know if we just lost the stream or not, so sorry if we did. It says we're offline on Twitch. If we are still online, hi. No idea why that might have happened, and hopefully it fixes itself. If you like the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch and support the show, as well as follow us on Twitter at tactical_crouch, and join us Mondays and Wednesdays at noon, twitch.tv/KickedTripod, or find us on YouTube at youtube.com/tacticalcrouch, and that's new. So you should definitely come hang out for that. Let's get into the interview, brought to you by our patron producers. Oh man, this is so long. Battlecrab Pin Lotion, Charlie L Audio Compass, Porkchop Sammy, Kasha67, Coochie Kopi, Shara Picasso, Nathan, Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Refined Bean, Rex Zane, Roger B, Fabled Steven, Owen. Hey. Thank you guys so much. You're making
much longer now.
You're making
Thanks,
it real
guys.
tough on me. Making it real tough on me, but we did it. Thanks for being here, chat. Thank you to our patron producers. Let's go ahead and get started with the show. And Arnold, before we ask you any in detail questions, can you tell us just a little bit more about your role and responsibilities with the Dynasty and Gen.G?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the COO. So underneath me, both for Gen.G and Seoul Dynasty, is kind of all our competitive operations. So, I'm getting the calls from the investors when we lose, hey, why did we lose? But also kind of our business operations and our marketing staff. So kind of get to see both worlds, have my feet in both on the competitive side, but also really on the business side, which is kind of obviously more my background and stuff.
Okay, very cool. Joe, can I throw you under the bus now?
Here we go for it.
Can I do it? Or Yiska, do you want to throw him under the bus?
I will put on the clown mask.
Which one? Who gets to throw him under the bus? Who gets to throw him under the bus?
If you want, I don't want to take it from you, but I would.
Let me tee it up. You can hit it out of the park, and then we'll make Joe feel it. How about that? So
yeah, let's do it. Amazing.
If you've been reading any of Joe's articles, which you should because they're incredible, and I only read two different writers, and one of them is not Yiska, so. I'm just kidding. Yes, guy, read your articles too. He was so hurt by that. He posted a speculative article about profit and consistency, work ethic, something along those lines, and it led to Arnold coming on the show.
It's all part. It's 4D chess right there. It's all part of the plan, right?
Yeah, exactly. So basically what we do is we write content that offends the COOs of organizations to bait them onto the show. We get them in the cage. And Yiska, I'll let you take the second half.
Okay, to be fair, I will also say I was the one editing this piece. And there's a thing where you got to check your bias at the door, where Joe wrote a profit piece that didn't describe him as a pristine astral being, which of course didn't sit well with me. But you gotta go there and let it slide every once in a while. Let other opinions breathe. I agree that, also, of course, and that is also on me as an editor. the way we talked about it previous or in the pitch, and like just as a comment, sort of like changed the way I read the article, which was not necessarily that you made a comment towards the actual work ethic of Prophet, but the intensity to which he plays in the respective games, and more like a commentary of the actual output that he had in the games. And I even disagreed with that, because I always felt Prophet was actually quite consistent up until season 3.
Sure.
Where I think I can only ever remember like 5 bad matches Prophet had in season 1 and season 2. And even now, most of the bad matches are actually, like, as I recall them, are simply down to Prophet not looking comfortable on Echo. Or, I mean, it's not only on the player, but also like playing Echo with the team, whatever that means, right?
Sure.
So in that regard, that was also my bad. But yeah, actually very good insight then from you, Arnold, on Twitter, saying that at least in the effort that Prophet puts in, it couldn't be possibly be further from the truth, right?
Yeah, it was really funny because somebody was like, "Yo, Arnold, like they're saying like how it. Obviously, I understand like that's not the intention or like you know where the article was going, but like how I found out about it was like somebody sent me like a Kakao, which is like a WhatsApp of like Korea, being like, "Yo, they're saying Prophet is lazy in an article." And I was like, "What? There's no way." I was like, "There's no way," because like. Yeah. I was like, dude, I'm sure you read it wrong. This is like obviously like our output in terms of our wins or our losses or our performance. Yeah, for sure. Like rag on us, talk about us, fair game. But then I was like, wait, Prophet's the hardest working dude on our team. So I was like, where could this like possibly have come from, right? So it was kind of a softball thing where I was like, all right, well. I asked him like, yeah, just what does Prophet think about this? He's just like, he's kind of annoyed by it, but he's like, whatever, because he knows it's not true.
Yeah.
But you know, I was like, well, you know what, you know, I got to do my job and talk about like why it's wrong, right? And like, look, there's been a ton of other players, not a ton, but there's definitely been players that have come through our system in Overwatch League or a bunch of other titles that we're in that were like maybe they're not as hardworking, right? And even though they're like really talented, right? And maybe that's like their downfall, right?
Sure,
but I was like, out of all of them, Prophet's the exact opposite. So, you know, him struggling on Echo or not getting the same output as like the really good players, like that's one thing. But then like being the hardest working dude, and then within the scene in Korea where everybody knows he's one of the hardest working dudes. So that's where I was like, all right, well, we got to say something. But now it worked out. I'm on the show.
Joe, how do you feel knowing that Prophet read that article? How do you feel?
It doesn't really sway me either way, to be completely honest. It was never like attacking his character.
No,
it was never attacking his career, but it was to highlight this idea or this kind of narrative that he kind of rises to the occasion. Like he could be more. Not that he actively chooses not to, but he just doesn't apply himself, something like that, which obviously now, knowing that he is so respected in his work ethic, it's just not true at all. Yeah. But through the what I can see through, you know, his career and his resume, it seemed like he always came alive in these, you know, high pressure situations, which could still be the case, but it's maybe, again, poorly framed on my part. Instead of a negative way, I could have spun it in a positive way.
Well, I think you framed it really well on the show last week, where we discussed the actual intent on it, and I feel bad because I'm just joking because I think the situation is funny. I thought the article was a really interesting like alternate look of like we don't get, especially and Arnold, I'm sure you know this, like the Western like content creators don't get a ton of access to any of the teams there. So there's a lot of speculation and there's a lot of like kind of narrative drawing to it. And I think, like, honestly, my only note, I think for like the article itself would have been just like, how do we make sure that people understand that this is speculative, even though it's obviously speculative once you like look at it. And once you have just it's kind of like a what if scenario. And
Right.
instead, I feel like people all of a sudden took it like Joe's just like, yeah, Prophet's lazy. This is the only thing that makes sense. And like, well, and that obviously wasn't it at all. So I feel bad for throwing
Honestly,
Joe under the bus
like
a little bit.
I actually prefer that he wrote the article because, like, at the end of the day, I think I said this too on Twitter. Like, at least somebody's talking about us, right? Like, and like, I agree with you. Like, there's not enough voices from both the league and the team side, right? Because the players can only say so much, and the coaches can only say so much. Because oh yeah, we'll work harder. Sorry for the loss, or
Of course,
thank you, we'll work harder, or GGWP. Like, they have like the lanes that they have to deal with. They have to maintain their brand and be wary of the fans that can just attack you and stuff. So I get it, but that also means that on orgs, on the league as well, they gotta do a better job of like just showing up to stuff like this, right? And like talking about it. And I would rather have more debates about these kind of things and other topics, right? And that's fun, that's interesting, right? Like I watch so much like First Take or and these kind of things. Or Uninterrupted with like LeBron James. That kind of stuff is like, that's what gets the hardcore fans excited. And I actually agree, there's not enough meat for hardcore fans right now to like engage on and like argue about, and like say you suck, you're wrong, and like we need more of that, less, not less. So I'm happy it came out.
I'm glad that, accidentally poking the bear obviously led to you in the show, and also gave us, kind of a nice insight into, how Prophet's viewed in South Korea and, his stake in the Overwatch space. So
do you
I didn't know they called him. I didn't know they called him Opshin, like the Overwatch god. Like I didn't know they called him that. That's pretty cool. I learned something too.
Do you have any insight like how so for instance players, I think like Violet, they're just like dominating the ladder, right? Just have like X amount of accounts in the top 10. Is Prophet someone like that, or does he have like just like a Smurf that nobody knows? Or
no, he grinds a lot, right? So everybody has like multiple accounts, and like within the scene, like everybody knows who's who, right? Or they're like, I think it's that guy. It's very similar to League actually. So League of Legends, like basically everybody has a bunch of Smurf accounts, so that it makes it harder for other teams to look at the history of the player, right? And what they're practicing.
That's actually an interesting point, because like especially we've seen it a little bit in CS, where we have now, because of Astralis, to talk about burnouts and whatnot. And for Astralis, I think they are a special case who actually put in the same amount of work that you would see from esports like League and like Overwatch. Do you have an insight into like how Overwatch practice times, especially also for the individual, compare to the other scenes? Like for instance, for League of Legends, or like, is there anything where you had to actually like maybe limit it in some way, or had to sort of like work around it, get performance coaches in so it stays productive, or anything in that department of topic?
Yeah, I think with hero pools, you definitely have to grind more. Like every week is like, it's like a brand new game and you gotta figure stuff out, right? So I'm glad that they made the change recently. So I would say it's comparable to League, but at certain times it's a little bit more draining than League of Legends practice, right? Because there's two factors, right? So this is when you talk to the pros, like they tell you, one, grinding Overwatch is way more tiring than grinding League, right? League, you have like the beginning, you're just CSing, right? Nobody's, you got like downtime, right? Versus Overwatch, right? You jump in and you're like, all right, you got it. Like every single freaking thing matters, and it's like super intense. So the intensity in the number of hours that you have to put in is really high. But now with hero pools, the number of hours oftentimes starts bleeding even higher, because you almost feel like you have to like learn something new. You're not like digesting something you've already learned, if that makes sense, right? So you're like, what is this? You don't have the answer. It's more like you have to go find the answer and then try to practice the answer. Versus In League, like you know what patch you're playing on, you know what the hit pick ban strategy is, and you know like roughly the pool of characters that you need to play, and you'll be okay, right? You know, with a few pocket picks here and there. So the number of hours often is longer for a more intense game, right? And so, you know, I think there was a real grind to it, right? And you know, it was really, I think it was tough, but what was nice was that, you know, everybody's home in Seoul. Even when they were in LA, like, you know, everything was taken care of because LA is another home base. I can't imagine if we had gone through this kind of hero pool system with travel, that would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't have worked.
Like talk about burnout. It's
Yeah. The one thing I do have to say is, and we hear this from the CSGO guys too. They basically say that like now that you don't have the highs of playing LAN, you kind of in back of your head you're like, what am I doing? You know, like that gnaws at you. So that also contributes where you're like, you don't have that like, I know why I'm doing this kind of moment.
Yeah.
It's like you like win and you're just, I'm still here. You know?
Yeah, it's weird. It's sort of like you're back in contenders, but the numbers on your bank account are higher. Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that the tournament structure that we saw with like the May Madness and now we have the Summer Showdown kind of helps with that, like the stakes and the just like, I know why I'm here, I know why I love this game for the players? Is it kind of providing some sort of, is injecting some of that optimism?
Yeah, look, that format makes a hell of a lot more sense, right? Like, I mean, there's very different views within the league, so I can't speak for the league, but for me personally, this tournament system is way better, right? Because it gives you something exciting to think about, right? It's not like, okay, there's another match. Should I watch it? Should I not watch it? It's more like, all right, this is the thing I'm going to mark on the calendar among all the other entertainment options that I have, right? Like, it was quarantine time, so I was playing Red Dead for the first time and finally got some time for it, right? Like, how, you know, if I look at all the entertainment options that are at my fingertips, I need things that's like spike higher for for it to draw attention, especially if you're like young, right? I'm 35, like I can't even imagine if you're like 16 and like, you know, like you know, have a short attention span. Like,
One Piece is on Netflix now, man. Like, what are you?
One Piece is hard, man. Look, there's like what, so many episodes,
there's like 800 some odd episodes.
Yeah, and I'm like, look, I think I stopped at like 500. Like, I don't want 400 episodes, right? Like,
2023 is when you catch up.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
look, I've been a proponent of the tournament system since day one, right? And not everybody agreed with me, but I'm glad we're moving towards that system. I think it makes a hell of a lot more sense. It's a lot more flexible. If people think like coronavirus or COVID is only a this summer thing, they're wrong. Like this, we're gonna see a resurgence next year too, right? Like, so having a more flexible system that people can get more excited about, that the players can get more excited about, that's big. But in terms of answering your question, it still doesn't scratch that LAN itch.
Yeah.
Right.
Playing in front of a crowd has got to do something.
You feel like a rock star, right?
Yeah.
To which degree do you believe in the tournament system? Would you ever go only tournaments and then have a scoring system based on that, like maybe more like CDL?
I kind of view more like I like to see it. I wish it was more CS:GO like, but with less like stuff. Right? Like CS:GO is insane. There's so many tournaments and qualifiers that you don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, and very many with different systems with like Swiss and GSL.
Yeah. And then roster changes happen, and then HLTV rankings happen, and then you're just like, it's very complicated, you know. But like, I think having more tournaments makes a lot more sense. I could imagine one where maybe you have like hybrid system, you know, where you could have like more smaller matches or qualifying matches, kind of similar to the way we did May, right? And then figure out the right circuit for it. But obviously, like, I don't know how many like big tentpole events you want to have. Really depends on a lot of them more logistics factors. But you need some like one thing at least. Like you need worlds, right? Of like putting it all together. Like I think that makes a ton more sense. I think it's more exciting. And for me, long term, what I want to see, and we haven't really seen this in any esport, is like I want the publishers to step up and like really support these major moments, right? So I've always been a big proponent of, like we have a contenders team from the start, and there's a couple of things that I think are needed. One, the publisher should be making, whether it's custom skins or custom sprays or whatever it is, for every major tournament, right? I think that should be necessary. So I don't know, but there's a lot of constraints on that side, right?
Oh, sure.
Resources and all that kind of stuff. But like whatever can get the entire engine moving towards saying these are our big moments for the year, I'm a proponent for that. So I don't know how many that is, but I think it's more of a tournament type structure than it is like a regular season structure. And then number two, so I have a crazy idea. I would love to float it with you guys. You guys can debate it. I want to see tournaments where you bring in the top you have a qualifying tournament for the contenders teams to be able to play into those same tournaments.
I'm already sold.
Some would that be, right?
Yeah.
It would be sick.
Wait. The problem is, what do you do if, like, for Gen.G, like, Seoul Dynasty plays Gen.G?
yeah.
Like, what
There are
happens
some
then?
problems.
You got to figure that out. But that to me,
especially because
is the
there's
dream.
7 Gen.Gs or worse at some point.
I like to think of myself as like leaning towards like chaotic good, even though I'm probably more like lawful neutral. Like I actually am just waiting for that to happen, just to see a top-seeded Overwatch League team choose a league team as a component over the contenders team. That's the drama I want to see.
Yeah.
That's the drama. That's the spice I want to see.
Like, what does that say? Like, do you think that would ever happen, just from the sense of like what? And I'm sorry to throw Boston under the bus here, but like we'll just say a Boston-like team, who probably is below a good chunk of contenders teams. All of a sudden,
I'm not sure if that's true anymore, but yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right with Punk and all that kind of
Say
stuff. So,
Washington, then we'll be better.
Yeah, so Justice. Okay, Justice are next. A Justice-esque team. Is like, I mean, teams paid a lot of money for the slots. We don't get into like specific numbers, obviously, but paid a lot of money for those slots. So then to have them devalue their brand by losing to teams that are not like, it's
don't
lose. They
man, dude. Winners win, losers lose.
Don't
right?
Lose,
what's funny is like, I think I try to be like very good about like taking care of people, taking care of our players and all that stuff, but like I'm extremely competitive, like everything, right? Like I'm just built that way. So like, yeah, then don't have a losing team, right? Like, sorry, that's that's what happens, right? Like, so, and look, at some point we're gonna have, a really bad down year, right? Like we've had years even in League of Legends where we were close to relegation. That sucked, but it forced us to get better, right? So to me, it's like, yeah, let's let that happen.
Did it
right?
$20 million suck?
By the way, I don't know if what the support is like. I haven't really socialized the idea, but like it's just like my personal pet idea that I have. So it's like, I just gotta say I'm speaking for myself as Arnold, not as like a league guy.
That's actually quite interesting. Like to the very beginning, you said that you're the guy that gets the calls when your team's not winning. Is winning actually a huge aspect business-wise in your business strategy and actually in your bottom line? Or could you theoretically, because franchise leagues don't have relegation, there's some sharing going on, could you, like, is there not a way where you could just like maybe have a marketable team and have a better bottom line that way?
Yes, you mean if you think about it historically, like if you look at even the Los Angeles Clippers, right? The old Los Angeles Clippers, not the new one. That's what their strategy was. They were actually one of the most profitable organizations in the NBA, right? But I personally don't believe that builds franchise value. Like the thing that I love about our organization and many other esports organizations that we're in close touch with is that they know that the differential between the Manchester Uniteds of the world and a team that I don't watch soccer. I call it soccer, so I don't really understand it very well. Is huge, right? Or the Lakers and the bottom team is huge, right? So us as an organization, even though we still have not had the competitive success that we are striving for, but like the fact that we're striving for it and that everybody, including our investors and our board, are aligned towards that direction, I think that is for us really exciting because it allows you to recruit better people, right? Like nobody wants to be like, yeah, I just want to be a free rider, just post memes all day kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the LCS approach. But I think that's what I get excited about. But I also think there could be more done. So one of the reasons why there's more franchise value in the Lakers, like R.I.P. Kobe, is that there's like revenue opportunities because you build a brand, because you win, right? And I always say, like, how could there be more of those things in game, right? How could we really encourage teams to win? Because nobody's going to buy the skin or the sticker of the losing team, right?
Yeah.
They want to buy stuff that's really integrated. They want to buy stuff of the things that are winners, right? And so, it's oftentimes a chicken or egg problem where you kind of need the incentives in order for the winning and the alignment to happen,
Yeah.
But that's what I think. That's one aspect that I get excited about franchise leagues, is that there could be that full alignment, magical moment happening at some point, right? Where the publisher, the league operator, and the teams and the players are all going and pushing in that one direction to make it successful and to like figure out the business model, right?
It's interesting you brought up because I think in like traditional non-geolocalized esports, that's even more true. I'm like winners sell, losers don't. I actually though, and maybe I just have bad friends, but I have like 3 friends who are like huge fans of like Patriots and blah blah blah, and they're like, I'm getting Uprising skins, and my friend isn't even level 25 yet. He can't even play comp, but he has like I think every home and away skin for the Boston Uprising. And so,
nice.
I wonder how much that staves that off a little bit versus, kind of not having, you don't have that local loyalty that you've kind of grown up with in traditional sports when you go with, just something endemic and not geolocalized.
Right. Yeah, for us, like, we love the idea of local, but we've noticed with our fan base, I always say we're like, if we can figure out how to win, I think we're going to unlock something special. The Dynasty is actually the most global fan base in Overwatch League, as far as I know. At least when we ran our numbers.
I believe that.
We have more international fans than we do in Korea, and even though we have a big Korean fan base, right? So, and that's with us, like, honestly, not winning, right? So I think there's kind of a nice momentum that we have around a lot of our efforts there. And I want to unlock it by trying to win. But obviously there's got to be a lot more work that we got to put in to figure it out. But for me, I don't know. I'm more of the opinion that like local is important, but it's only a fraction of the story.
Totally.
Right.
Sure.
Because fan bases are more global than ever, right? Like I bet you the new Laker fans that are coming in, I bet you there's far less people in LA than it used to be like 50 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I'm more of I'm the digital guy, so like I don't think it matters as much.
It's really better for the worst teams, not really the better team. The better teams can kind of expand beyond the geolocal, but if you're you might have to start with your core locally if you're
and that's what I think he's talking about, where it's like you can build that core and build that it's your foot in the door, but you have to do the rest of the work to open it, right? Like you have to really utilize where we are with technology and utilize the internet and utilize how global everything is, like LCK Global's been on forever, OGN Global, this goes back even to, the 2010s, watching Korean StarCraft, Korean League of Legends, everything is everywhere now.
Yeah.
For most of it, at least.
Dude, if Parasite can win an Oscar and BTS can be BTS, like your fan base is no longer like just going to be only local, right? And teams that are stuck thinking that, my personal view is that like it's not going to work out for them, right? Like, You gotta go big, but you still need to, like, local became table stakes. Like, you gotta do it, you gotta figure it out. But like, if you don't have a plan for international, like, sorry, you're behind the curve.
Yep, I think it's starting to kind of weed out throughout the league in particular, like, trying to get Canadian players on Canadian teams. It's like, but why? You have that core fan base. Wouldn't you want to give them wins and like a championship rather than just giving them somebody to root for that live down the street? It's like, that's kind of gone by the wayside, especially with the younger generation where you have friends from around the world. So it's not just, I grew up with the kids around my block. It was, I grew up with a guy in Germany and, I played with this, French Canadian guy. We played these games and, I went to his wedding. It's like you said, everything is so global right now.
Yeah.
It's the one question that then, because I think the conception or one of the premises of the Overwatch League, that at least like when that all was formed, I remember the guys behind Reunited's smart business people just like talking about how there is a discrepancy between sports fans, what they spend annually per capita, and esports fans. And one of those ways to combat that was the localization. Now, two questions. A, is that true? Is there any legs to that theory? And if so, what can we do with products that also reach at a global audience so they feel more invested in esports and can spend more? Right.
It's I'm trying to, let me just try to break down the components of that question. I think, and I feel like I'm gonna get roasted for this, but I do think that we're very lucky to be in esports as a fan, right? Because even for me, when I first started watching esports, it was like when I first graduated, like 07 or so. Like, everything was free.
Yes.
Right?
Big problem.
Yeah.
Everything is free, right? And in that kind of world, there's not much money there, right? But I think that it's not that they don't spend. Well, there's two factors. One is that, yes, the audience is younger, and so they're going to have less spending power, and when they get older, they will have more spending power. But what I see with the problem in esports today is that when that younger generation does get older, there's not that much for you to engage with the dollars you've earned to support the scene. What I mean by that is, I look at like the LPL and look at what's going on in the China broadcasts, and I think it's really cool. Like, there's like freaking rocket ships that fly by on the screen. Right? If you like donate enough, or you have a message. Obviously, it's screened to make sure you're not saying something weird. But why are there no donations happening during Twitch, like most esports streams? I don't get it. Right? Yeah. Especially if it's going to go towards the league, the team, and the players, right? Where it can be like everybody wins kind of thing. And that the user has the ability to turn it off so that you're not bothered by rockets flying by and stuff. To me, like, those are kind of like the opportunities I want to see. I want to see more skins, right, in the game that go and support the teams and the players in the league, right? Like, all of those things. I feel like I've worked really hard. I grew up really poor, but everything kind of worked out for me, and I spent a lot of money on Overwatch, but I have nothing else to buy. I've already bought all the Dynasty skins, That's a weird flex, I know, but like,
you didn't get them? They don't just give them to you?
I felt bad if I like, our entire staff can't get it for free, so I'm not gonna be like,
man of the people. Man of the people.
Man of the people. All right. Yeah, bonus there. Yeah, exactly.
But no, I think look, there's people that as they get older. I'm not going out as much anymore. I'm not married, so like, I don't have kids. Like, I have money to put to work into this thing, right? But I can't. So I think those two sides have to change, right? Like, one, I hope the esports community realizes that if we can create things of value that they actually want, that they will, use their dollars to support it. And that we need to create things that they actually find valuable and that they're willing to pay for. And like, those two things need to happen simultaneously.
So would you say that that's kind of maybe the impetus or the idea behind a lot of the push into like clothing brands and streetwear? Like, this is kind of very within the last maybe 3 or 4 years, where you see teams like 100 Thieves, yourselves, in a weird way, Tempo Storm's kind of doing it similarly with their own game, where they're kind of like shifting into kind of a soft publishing role.
Right.
It's more about kind of producing more direct flow into your company. Is that kind of the idea behind it, where it's like, okay, you've bought everything you can, we're locked by the publisher, how can we as a company provide you with something you want? It's clothes, it's games. Is that kind of the same idea?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the ideas that a lot of people are really pushing. So, for me personally, like I actually worked in e-commerce for like 5 years. So it's one of the reasons why I don't like it. And so I shy away from going in an apparel company. Like, plus, like, I'm not the apparel guy, right? Like, Nate Shot is cool,
Sure.
right? Like, me, I'm not the guy to be like, on, like 1 million followers or whatever. That's just not, I'm not built that way. I'm the nerdy finance guy, right? That's just not going to work. So I think every esports team, every esports league is trying to figure out like where they can create independent revenue streams. My personal belief is that the most valuable ones are the digital ones, right? So the in-game skins, in-game things, I think are really big for us. A focus on kind of the actual stream assets, I think that's really interesting. So I think as an industry, it's not just Overwatch League, this is cross esports. I think the industry needs to do a better job of figuring out better business models, revenue opportunities in terms of the integration into the game with in-game revenue, as well as on the actual stream itself and engagement tools on stream, right? If you like, I know he's getting a lot of flack right now, but I love Sushi Dragon. I love how many different integrations he's built into his stream, where like different donations and bits and everything's different, and like stuff is happening, and it's like live edited almost. And I think that's the future, and so I hope we can get there. And I hope the industry itself steps up in that regard.
So go ahead, Joe.
He's good. He's good. It was just more of a comment on the whole Sushi Dragon and League of Legends thing, where it's I don't, at least I'd hope I don't follow it as closely as you probably, but it seems like it's more just they've tried to just copy and paste him into that role, rather than like maybe taking his ideas or putting him in charge of something that maybe is similar. And it's not really fair to him.
It's so not fair.
Yeah, they kind of throw him under
he's getting
fantastic streamer, by the way, like super
awesome. I love that guy. One thing that I would say, and I think this is more of a macro view, is if you build an audience around one kind of broadcast, it's very hard to change it, right?
Sure,
and I think that's what the LCS is struggling with. I would actually say the LCK is struggling with that too, where the broadcast becomes stagnant. And so one fear that I see, or one danger that I see, is that many esports broadcasts have become stagnant, right? And many even esports fans are becoming resistant to change.
Sure.
Right? Of like having a different, like, so I would prefer, I always say, there's a John Wooden quote. He says, the team that makes more mistakes in a game is usually the one that wins. What that means is that they're actually trying enough new things.
Yeah.
And across the esports industry, I see fewer and fewer leagues trying new things, right? And for LCS, the fact that they tried this thing with Sushi Dragon is great. And I hope that it's more of a culture shift where they get their fan base used to them trying new things, so that this is one of many, instead of like it was stagnant for so long that like there was only like this one random thing, versus if you have an organization that tries many new things, I think fans get more accepting of it.
Do you have kind of a hypothesis as why that is, though? Why leagues and teams are maybe hesitant to try different things? Like, I know from my side, going from a company that has spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on activating streamers and content creators, there's obviously like pencil pushers who are like, show me the ROI or we're done here. There's also sometimes just like lack of imagination. What do you have kind of a theory that you prescribe to?
it's not fully fleshed out yet. Okay, so I hope I'm not. This is not the hill I want to die on, but I think yes, the whole pencil pusher thing. Yes, the corporate sponsors. Like in terms of the stuff that costs money, you need corporate sponsors to back it, and they're gonna want something proven, right? They're gonna want things that are up and running, that have that are safe, that are successful, right? For instance, like a failure experiment, probably a partner doesn't want to be associated with it, right? So that's one aspect, right? And I think with a flood of new corporate sponsors coming in with the rise of esports, especially in recent times, a lot of production side is caught up in trying to figure out the sponsor issue, and so they spend an inordinate amount of time, as they should, right? If we're going to make this business model work, they got to figure this out on making that part successful. So there's like the majority of your brain is spent on that. Now, then that means that you also have to create almost like a different group, right, within the organization that is not doing that, right? That is focused on innovation and trying weird random stuff that isn't paid for yet, right? Because it's too new, but that could potentially become a valuable asset in the long run, right? And there, for like so that's what I think needs to happen. But I also think there's this weird underlying current, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it. I'm sure many people are guilty of it. But this is the one thing that I don't understand about esports is that one, everybody gatekeeps esports that are like endemic in esports. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. They're like, oh, this isn't esports, or like it should be this way. And I'm like, dude, this industry is brand new. Number two, this isn't freaking rocket science. Like, do stuff that's cool and fun that people like, right? Like, people gatekeep it, so they almost become resistant to changing and trying new things, right? And then the other side is that people are so scared of like Twitter and like the backlash on Twitter, but it's like, I would hope that people start understanding that it's their job to get backlash, right? Like that's their job, right? So like deal with it instead of being like fake friendly all the time. Like just deal with it, Like you and I feel like there's this weird thing in esports, especially in the US scene, where like everybody's so worried about like how the Twitter people will feel. And I'm like, dude, you gotta try new stuff. And then if it's successful, people will think you're a genius. If it's unsuccessful, people will say you're an idiot. But like just do it, and do enough of them so that over the course of the long run, which we're all building for, that you make more right decisions than wrong, right?
Yeah, ideally.
Otherwise you just won't be in the industry anymore, right?
Yeah. And to a degree, like this entity that brings innovation, for the longest time, I've thought it's very easy to outsource without having big risk at all.
Right.
The thing that you do is simply crowdsource ideas. Like you have streaming and you have content creation, and whatever works there, like you bring these people in, even maybe just temporarily. You don't have like, of course, you're not getting brand risks in necessarily, right?
Sure, of course, yeah.
But you're getting in the people that have a proof of concept towards the content that they're doing,
right?
And that, like, the entire internet is already experimenting around your scenes. So like that's your laboratory, which you don't have to pay and don't have to take not a lot of responsibility for anyway. Like if anything really hits the fan, like you're not directly responsible, but you should probably do something again.
Right
here. But yeah, that then you outsource the volatility, but if you then somehow also give the opportunity to make it to the big scene and integrate these lessons in there, especially the people. It's not necessarily the concepts that are being raised there, but the minds that have conceived of them. And you will find, for instance, especially LAC, to me, I attribute a lot of their success to just having people that have been around for so long that get it,
right?
That have the endemic experience and have sort of like the culture figured out. Like in a way I empathize, because like it is so different hitting the note of the community in Valorant, for instance, and in Overwatch. Completely different cultures.
Oh, huge, right?
CS, very different, League, very different. And you need this specialized folk that really get it, that have been selected to a degree by the audience with their vote of, I'm watching you.
Yep.
And then integrating them into the broadcast. Like, for instance, why is someone like, at the time he was really working, why is someone like Jane on Dallas and not on the Overwatch League? Something like this, right?
Right.
So these ideas, and to be fair, they, as far as I know, for instance, with Avast, they tried, right?
Really?
So that's I mean, I don't know, but that was what was communicated in terms of like he had to make a decision. Is he going to?
Okay.
I'm not sure if there was ever
public implications there. Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and no leaks.
I don't have any leaks. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know that one. I just don't know that one.
Yeah, but that's the type of stories that you want. That someone that comes not in the community but out of the community, make that part of the experience because they've already a proof of concept, right? And then if it doesn't work, okay, you tried, right?
And I also think, there's, so I'm more from like a tech startup background. There's this thing called like a technology adoption curve. And, they talk about how at first when you launch a product like the iPhone, right, it's really, it goes to like this core audience, right? That's really looking for like very technology focused solution.
The enthusiast,
Yeah. And then I think we're almost at the phase where we're moving from kind of the early adopters of esports and gaming to like now, obviously with everything going on, like the early majority, that's actually the hardest jump, and that's where esports is today, which is we know we have to like now be this big thing that the mainstream watches, right? But we also know that we have to stay true to the core and what got us to be successful in the first place. And now we have to strike that balance. And I think it's on both fronts, right? Like, I think there's too much people that say, oh, I come from traditional sports, do it my way, and you'll be just like the NBA. And I'm like, no, you won't. Because we don't have Kobe, we don't have LeBron. Like, the other side, too, is that there's a lot of esports people that will be left behind because they're not evolving, right?
Sure.
They're not getting better, right? And so, I think we're in this kind of like creative destruction phase where, I think the broadcast in 2-3 years is going to be radically different from what we're getting today. And I think even the talent is going to be radically different. And I think in a good way, because it's becoming very competitive now, right? Like there's up and coming young casters that are, man, they're hungry, they're talented, there's, it's like when I try to play basketball on weekends, I'm a step slower now, like, I sprained my ankle. I used to be able to play the next day. Like now it's like a month out, like,
Sleep
but that's what's the beauty of an
much.
industry that's growing, right? Is that like, you get to see this influx of brand new talent. Like, we, even for social media, like we just hired these new guys, first year out of school, man, even the resumes we're getting now are just so qualified. Right before 3 years ago when we were first starting Gen.G, like even recruiting was hard. Now we're getting amazing talent coming into the scene. So we're just in this weird inflection point. And what I know is that for esports talent is what I tell everybody in our team is that like unless you're getting better, you're gonna get left behind, right? And if it's gonna be rough, man. We just have to be focused on getting better, and on the side of like the corporate guys coming in, the suits, I guess I'm a suit, so I can't really say anything about them, but the suits coming in, like they got to do a better job of not being the dumbest guy in the room, right? Like I guarantee you when I first joined, I was a big fan of gaming, big fan of esports, but I was still the dumbest guy in the room when I was in a room with the esports people, right? But now, every year I just try to be one guy less dumb, as in like if there's 10 people on the table, I got to be smarter than at least one guy by next year, right? And so that's kind of what I see in the industry. And I would love to hear from you guys because you guys are in it way more hardcore on the ground than me. So like, what are you seeing on your side of kind of this like weird thing that's happening where we're mainstream but we're not, and the conflict and all that stuff?
I think to a degree, of course, like it's a little overhyped and possibly overvalued how much traffic and attention we're getting. And especially also because like I was here when in 2009 or 10 MLG tried to get like a $5 HD stream going, and everyone was just like outraged at the thought of it not being free, right? Like like they fired up the LimeWire and just like tried private bots and whatnot. So from that perspective, I definitely see that. And also a little bit of an older guy, I'm 33. Like I'm very aware that it's not even, we're not even at the apex of how adaptable you need to be. Like there are technologies and cultural shifts at the horizon where we have to completely adapt, as in what is going on with mobile, what is going on with VR, potentially not just as a gaming device or device, but also as an audience experience. What does it mean to be in a scene with such a long history as CSGO? Do you create a type of entertainment that people could reasonably be expected to feel good about bringing their kids in and making them fans of respective teams and building experiences that have a certain value and virtue, if you want, behind it in order to attract that audience that at like 28 probably the latest think like, okay, this is a young man's game, I'm jumping off. And that's also where a lot of money, because like who spends, right? Who like as careers improve. And of course there's also the stuff with the generational income in general being something that needs to be considered. So like I'm perfectly aware that if I want to stay in this as a career, I need to be highly adaptive and never commit to any like hard truths in terms of that. And I would say for myself, I 100% changed my tune over like how I started creating content in Overwatch and how I'm now engaging with them. Right. I still don't get it yet, but I think it's getting less obnoxious at least. So I have less DMs from Dream. That's about awful tweets. But yeah, I think that what you're saying about just like the adaptability and the openness, and also to a degree, it's also, I kind of want to listen to the lessons of the suits, because there's always like in the history of ideas, there's something maybe that it's not the perfect idea that they have, but how is it applicable to the respective audience? How do these puzzle pieces fit together? And these are hard questions at this point in time, right?
I think that's like the big thing that we could all kind of take away from it is like hearing the suits, but the suits kind of have to hear us too.
Right.
Where it's like, yes, this worked, but how can we fit this here? What about that can be kind of synthesized and conceptualized and applied to the digital space, or the gaming sphere, or eSports, elitists, if you want to call them that. It can't just be, well, it worked for the NFL, it'll work for this, because they're so different. They're completely different. It's in a different time. Like one thing that I think that Yiska doesn't get enough credit for is talking about like the bringing in these old, Fox executives and these tried and tested suits, and then applying them in a world that is still being created. And we're still building the plane. That's something that kind of is been narratively painted around the league, is we're still building the plane as we're flying it. So it's like you've been built in a space that's kind of safe, and what works. You don't really have to iterate as much. This is completely iterative. We have no hard and fast rules. There is no truth. So you get to be creative, but you've never had to.
Right.
So you only know hard and fast truth. So it's very, again, to your point, to your point, Arnold, I think we're still trying to find our footing and figuring out what this is, how to best, connect with the audience, as cliche and as gross as that sounds. But as a league as a whole, it's tough, because we're bringing in people, and I feel like there are butting heads, and it's not good. Not
one of the
easy.
big challenges that happens even in startups, right, and is part of the life cycle is, so for me, I always think about things like from a pattern recognition perspective of like, where can I like take like Shang-Chi Sung style, like take like little pieces here and there and like apply it to like different industries. So one of the things that is very difficult to do as a startup, especially if you look at Silicon Valley, the show, or like coming from 2 guys and a dog in a garage or whatever, and then becoming all of a sudden a grown-up company, is hiring that first true business executive guy, right? And that integration is actually really hard, right? And I think esports as a whole is going through that right now, where, by the way, the advice that people give you is try to find a good culture fit, and most likely it's going to fail. That's what they tell you when you hire the first business hire, is that high chance of failure, try your best to stack the odds in your favor, fire them quickly if it doesn't work.
Yeah,
right?
That's
Like
the thing.
that's I think the creative destruction thing that we have to go through is that. So for me, the thing that I get most concerned about is less about the change and like the Twitter drama and all that stuff, but that it's happening too slow right now. Like I think across the board, across the leagues, we should be seeing much more drama happening in order to get to a final end state that's like that's a lot better at a faster pace. And I don't know, it's just the Sushi Dragon thing is great if it's a pattern of we're gonna keep trying new shit every week.
Right. Yeah. It can't just
Versus
be. This is...
if they're like so scared of the Twitter people, it's like, dude, just let it go. You know, you gotta try it.
That's also the reason, like when we had the podcast, the first podcast after Hero Pools was announced,
Right.
I was elated that they try.
Right.
My problem is that they tried. In my eyes, it failed, at least in terms of like creating an environment that is defensible against like by your mental state. And then they should have switched quicker. But what you're saying about the adherence to bad ideas and possibly bad people not in the sense of moral, but like bad people who consistently make bad decisions, it's rough, because in some sense it of course communicates volatility and like, oh my god, they're drowning. But really what the best thing is, like, see if it works and then get them out, even on a competitive level. Like I would say these 2+1s or even 1+1s that their teams, just by the length of their contract, have not been competitive due to that, right? Yeah. Like they've locked themselves out from being a much better version of themselves. And if they had the possibility to mix and match more often and put their resources there, of course, the thing is, now I'm sounding like an anti-player advocate, which it's rough. If you, for instance, were to reduce like the minimum contract length, that wouldn't go well with anyone, and arguably wouldn't also be a moral decision, right?
Right.
But no argument that once you get a good decisions maker in, like a good GM or head coach, if he only has to adhere to 6-month contracts, it's way easier for the organization to say, okay, you're benched and we're paying 3 months of salary for the rest, other than 9. Or like bring new people on because of that, right? So the security works against, and this is of course like more like a metaphor for everything, like scaled up to the business side as well. But it's like you have to, in order to attract people to such a volatile industry, you got to make assurances that the system cannot yet stem, it seems.
Right. No, I guess going to your first point on like, I would say like actually specifically in Overwatch League, like I got to give a lot of credit. Shout out to John Spector. He's probably not watching this, but whatever. He's done a really good job, or the league has done a really good job recently, I think, of actually changing things around, right? Hero pools have changed, right? The tournaments have changed, and part of it is that like the macro thing happened where like everything had to change. But like at least now I'm like getting the sense that there's actual change happening, at least in terms of the format and kind of there. So I, to the league's credit, I'm like, okay, great job on that. Like I wish we didn't start with 1-week hero pools. But like at least we're not on it right now, right? Like thank God, right? And we're not doing a random hero pool for a tournament, thank God, right? Like and there's another tournament, thank God, right? Like, so
Mhm.
I think, that kind of stuff is really positive. But yeah, I agree with you. But that's where I think a lot of trust, and I think this is where franchise leagues needs to do a really good job of making sure that the teams in the franchise leagues are good ones, that they're gonna behave in a way that you can't like define by like contracts. It has to be more spiritual more than anything else. So that, like, for instance, one of the policies that we have in terms of our company, not on our competitive side, in terms of our company, is that one, we basically give everybody a heads up notice that, like, look, if it doesn't work, we're gonna help you try to find something else, right?
Mhm.
I'll let you know ahead of time before you just show up and you're not here anymore, right?
Mhm.
Number two, we try to be very generous around severance, not because we're like, oh, it's the right thing to do, but because we say logically, okay, if a manager needs to fire somebody, but they know that there's a bigger severance package than the industry norm, at least it gives them something, because long term,
Mm.
if they're in a place where their manager doesn't appreciate them and the person isn't doing their best, like, it's bad for everybody, right?
Mm.
So how do you make that friction better? But I think the one thing that happened across esports, across the leagues, is one of the things that I heard was in Korea, for instance, when Riot took over the broadcast for LCK from OGN. They're very like honest with it. Like they're trying a lot more new stuff, right? And it's getting more interesting. And credit to, I think, the casters for helping push a lot of these ideas. Is that this is brand new for them, versus OGN had been doing a bunch of crazy stuff like
Sure, yeah.
karaoke's and
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so it was kind of brand new, and so it was really hard for them to try a bunch of these things, right? And then I think what you're seeing now, even today, if we say, all right, Overwatch League, we're going to do a karaoke thing, everybody's going to be like, what do you mean? Like, why do we need to do this? It's like
Yeah.
we've kind of created a culture of like stagnation, and it's really hard to escape from that, right?
Mm.
And break that. So
Mm.
I hope. And the other thing is, like, I can't be the one team that forces my players to do karaoke, right?
Right. Yeah. It has to be kind of a collective.
It is going to be like,
Yeah.
yo, I got a scoop for you. Like, this guy's
Yeah.
making me sing a
Yeah.
whole new world every
Mm.
time we lose. I think that's where the leagues and the team need to decide. All right, we think it's better for the league to mandate everybody needs to do a player interview when they lose, so that at least they know it's not anti-competitive. It's that everybody has to have, somebody that does it, right? Like,
Mm.
or everybody has to go sing karaoke, or whatever the content commitments are, right? Like, but I think, I've always said that I'm an ally to the league when it comes to creating more content, right? And we could figure out, if everybody has to lose a scrim because of it, that's fair, right? And so, I think it's the right thing to do. And yeah, I hope the leagues do more across the board around it.
100%. It's always, for me, it's always been the execution. Like this most recent thing with adding Spice Adams and Tazon Day coming on. For me, it feels like it's very traditional. It's, these again, these are people that, have big brands, so bringing them in feels like a very, corporate thing. You had it back in, the Blizzard Arena, bringing in celebrities where it was like, okay, like it's cool, like to see them, but why are they here? Like, what are they fans? Like, you try to get that out of them, and it felt kind of sterile. It felt kind of forced. So it was weird. It's not a bad thing, but it's just the execution. Maybe it's the wrong people. Maybe it's not the right, demographic. It's not,
Right.
movie stars. We need to bring in, like, as dumb as this is about to sound, new media people, looking at maybe Tazan is a little bit closer, but just a little bit,
And he's also
a little older.
Even though
Sure, 100%. Credit where credit's due. Constantly see him in the YouTube chat, saying some stuff. So
shows up
the way
on
I think about it
every time.
Yes.
I kind of have this rule in my head of like, if somebody brings up an idea of like a celebrity or influencer and I know who they are, probably not the right influencer.
Not wrong.
You
Not
know,
wrong.
we're
100%.
gonna bring in AC Slater from Saved by the Bell. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not the guy. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I will say I feel like esports people or esports fans really have a nose though for bullshit, and that is with this is backfired on them, I think, a lot, and it doesn't work in traditional it doesn't work for esports for some reason like it does for traditional sports. For example, I remember, was it Owen Wilson in season 1 who was there and like didn't really have an idea like what was going on, and he was like there for a there was
quite a few people.
Yeah, there was some, and
I want to say,
and rather than being like this
mean,
really cool celebration of a celebrity coming in, it looked like, oh, Overwatch League or whoever the teams or whoever else is buying out Hollywood talent to legitimize themselves outside of.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
I gotta correct. It wasn't Owen Wilson. He came with us because he's actually friends with one of our guys.
Sorry, okay.
And his like kids are into it. So it definitely wasn't him. I don't want to get a phone call.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean. Yeah,
he
sorry,
Mr. Wilson. His kids liked it. Like it was that hashtag not ad. You know.
Sure.
But no, I know what you're talking about. Like, you know, like the whole hashtag ad appearance is like rough, you know.
Yeah. And it's tough, and it's I think it's esports are one of the more volatile like gatekeeping type of things for that. Like you can be ignorant, I think, about an esport and in esports and just say like I'm ignorant about this, but like and this is kind of like the Gen Z millennial, like we've grown up on pop-up ads and hot singles close to us, so we know BS marketing when it kind of comes to us, and like creating genuine marketing has been like it's what I consult right now, more on like the streaming audio technology space. But like that's my job, is to come in and go like, cool, this is a great idea. Nobody's gonna believe it, and that's, I think it's really interesting to see on the esports side of things. This kind of knows that esports fans have for this isn't genuine. They want genuine marketing. They want excitement and hype, but at the same time, they're they don't fall for the same, like the cameo has a way different meaning in esports.
What's really interesting is sorry for interrupting, is like I did a study. I used to work at Google, and we did the study of I think it's beauty e-commerce, and we were looking at so we did a study where we're like, okay, we think people are now making their purchase decisions based on YouTubers and influencers. So, you know, let's try a bunch of experiments. So what we did was we seeded a bunch of these products to the top beauty influencers on YouTube, and then we just watched how 15-year-old women, or girls, I guess, are young, like how they made their purchase decision. And we were like, all right, first thing she did is she went on YouTube. We were like, all right, we got it. We're so right. We know how this market works. And then the first 5 results were all influencers that we had paid to be up top, right? And they're the biggest influencers in the world, right? And it's supposed to be organic. It wasn't a hashtag ad or anything, so it wasn't sponsored. So we were like, all right, they're gonna skip the sponsored. Yep, they did. And then we're like, okay, now they're gonna go to the 5 top results. What she did was actually fascinating. The majority of them scrolled past the top 5 into these like much smaller influencers. I was like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, she recently has been doing a lot of sponsored stuff, so like I can't really trust her opinion anymore. So they're so like aware and in tune with what an ad is, and the way that ad is part of a full integrated integrated into every piece of content that they see, that they sniff it out better than any adult. That like for us, it was like, if you install ad blocker, we think we're a genius, right? Like they know how to sniff the BS like instantly, right? And so it makes it really hard. Like every marketer is like, what am I supposed to do?
100%. That I follow a couple like comedians in their podcasts, and I've seriously appreciated their attempt to kind of integrate their ads and make it about them and showcasing their personality, and also the product. Obviously you have to, give the read, but it's less about just reading what's given to you and making it about you, and making it kind of a little bit less businessy, a little less, I'm trying to sell you something, more as, me as your friend through this weird medium is telling you about a product rather than trying to sell you on it.
Right.
Still is not there yet. I think we could get some improvements there, but I think that's kind of not the future, but
Speaking of which, if Pellegrino wants to sponsor me,
I was about to say, this episode of Tactical Crouch brought to you by patreon.com/tactical
there you
podcast.
go.
Tactical Crouch, where only the hottest singles in your area congregate.
And that's what this is describing is also like, this is also where you can't outsource that. I think you need creatives that are very in tune with the cultural realities of the respective scene that you're catering to. This works, for instance, perfectly for LEC. I will also say, I don't think any other esports has understood proximity markets as well as Riot in general, where the crossover between the anime types and like the K-pop stuff and the music in general and what they do around that is simply another level. Like we haven't even we have DJ Khaled. Like that's
well, Zed was an improvement. Zed was an improvement.
Good.
I still wanted it to be a tailored kind of show. I wanted, some sort of, not a new song. I can't ask an artist to kind of just like creatively come up with something Overwatch related, but have, the graphics that are being shown, maybe highlights, cut to it, something that ties you there. So it's not just Zed is performing, it's Zed's performing at the Overwatch League or Zed's performing with an Overwatch kind of theme. That would be sick to me.
To me, that's where I know Epic is, slandered for or shot down for, or pitchforked for the stuff where they don't support the esports scene enough. But at least in terms of the integration around music, Travis Scott, like, dude.
Like, come on.
It was
so
insane.
Good.
I don't play Fortnite, but that's just sick.
That is exactly the type of content I'm talking about, though.
Since we talked about One Piece, I know you guys are onto lore or, the actual games. And Blizzard's always usually really good with lore. So I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Historically, Blizzard has protected their IP and universe like crazy, right? You don't screw with it, right? Travis Scott doesn't show up in the game, right? And that's kind of the Blizzard way. It's like Disney, right?
Yeah.
But now with gaming being so
Pixar,
mainstream and esports being so mainstream, right? Pixar, do you think that should stay the same? Like, if there was a billboard in the game and it's Travis Scott, right? Like, does that break immersion in on the esports side if you have that in the universe? What are you guys' opinion on it? Like, I love Blizzard lore. Like, I read the Diablo books. I was like into it, but like, it's just different now,
I
right?
have the Azeroth Bibles.
Definitely.
And stuff. Yeah. I think so. This is something where you're right in the sense that it like it could be an immediate turnoff, right? An immediate, not just turn off from the game, but like the universe in general. And there's a risk there. I think that there probably though is a way that it can be done right, more than just like changing the billboards in the game, right? Or whatever.
I got one. I got one.
Yeah.
But like I think that there is a lot of really cool immersive things, especially, we know like Diva's story is in like this kind of this really interesting, fast-paced, gamified South Korea type stuff. Like there's a ton of stuff that you could probably do there with that, and a ton of things that you can probably integrate into the game. It's but I don't also think that like a Travis Scott concert on Nubani is like the way to go either in that sense. Like that's probably not really it, and that doesn't really
but look at what Riot's done with KDA, right? Look at and WoW kind of did something similar. World of Warcraft did something similar with Elite Tauren Chieftain. They had like this in-game kind of band, this rock metal band that would play. I think you could take something like that, like this idea of KDA and this idea of what's the new one? They have like a new group that they've kind
True
of
Damage or something.
True Damage, True Damage.
Yeah.
That you can kind of create this authentic in-game music group. Again, just kind of playing within that theme that has some sort of ties to Overwatch lore or ties to the story, and kind of outsource that to, an alter ego of a very famous artist or a very popular artist, and, have them create, a small like EP for Overwatch League.
Isn't that Lucio?
And I think that would That would kill. I think you could take the idea of Lucio, but tie it to something real.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would be how I think you could integrate it with Overwatch.
And I
And
think
Riot came out with you know what the song for Jet was?
oh, it's by Sohi, like that artist, right?
It's by
K-pop
Doja
artist?
Cat.
Oh, it's by Doja Cat, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh shit.
So one of the biggest artists, like at the apex of it, like if you think about KDA as well, they had Madison Beer on there.
Yeah, they had
like,
a bunch
before
of
she popped. Like I feel like they also do the talent choices very well, where it's
Right.
like these people are either currently on top or just about to completely. Maybe they even elevate them there. To be fair, like maybe that's
in some ways, I'm
right?
sure.
You know, a lot of it I think is cultural as well. If I look at the Riot LCS staff or the LEC staff versus, let's say, the LCK staff, like the LCS guys, maybe too much, like actually hang out with the entertainment people
Okay.
and the influencers, and like, you know, they're in that scene, they're going to the same parties, like they get it and they know what the industry chatter is. Versus other leagues don't.
Yeah.
So they don't live that life, you know?
Sure.
And even in LCK, like the LCK broadcast guys don't hang out with YouTubers, and you know what I mean? So they don't understand. It's not that they don't like them, it's just that culture gap is there.
Yeah.
Right? And I think even for Overwatch League, a lot of people were kind of all over the United States. So a lot of them weren't part of the influencer scene in LA. Right? So for us, that was an advantage for us, where we brought on a bunch of influencers just because a lot of us lived in LA, so we like, you know, hang out and stuff. But you know, it's I think that's definitely a big gap. And I gotta say, kind of to Joe's point, like I think esports is one way where you could like loosen the rules of the lore universe, right? It's much more accepted if you're doing something on the esports broadcast and the esports world, the competitive world, because Tracer doesn't go against Winston in the universe anyway. So like
100%.
Yeah.
So
or two Tracers or whatever.
Yeah, two Tracers, right? Like that's why I hope, like you know, with Overwatch 2 and the competitive mode there, like I hope they use that opportunity to like loosen what competitive could be as kind of just a taste, and then have a separate true story mode.
Yes.
Right. Instead of hearing the same voice lines over and over again every time you pick, because I'm a one-trick Ana, so I just keep hearing her same voice lines. Like
sure.
Well, there's
another
also
one.
just like even in the cinematics, there's just abilities that the heroes use that aren't actually in the game at all.
Yeah.
Like,
So there's so many holes that it's like you want to hold this logic.
Through a arrow.
Yeah, he has that whole like other sword that it's like, well, what's that about, bro? Like, another thing that I thought was really interesting is what Apex Legends did. Very briefly, kind of a small little thing, but they had one of their characters and they hired the voice actor for that character, kind of give these shout outs to these influencers. Very tailored, like, hey, like, I'm some snarky character. You have no idea. It was really cool. Like, I was like, oh, okay, that's different. That's not, you know, KDA Pop Stars music group, but it's still kind of like a nod to the, as again, as cliche and as cheesy as it sounds, the real world meeting the virtual world and being like, oh, well, I like Madison Beer and I like, you know, the Mirage as a character. That's really cool. That's two things I really like. Maybe I'll try this game. Again, like it's such a reach, but you kind of have to reach a little bit to kind of get creative. Like you really got to like think outside the box to kind of figure this out.
I think the Zed Widow skin should have been released. You know, like why not?
That'd be sick.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's the least you could do.
Add it as a team skin, so it's like in a different, you know, thing instead of. Well, actually, no. Like all the other skins are like there's Little Red Riding Hood, right?
True.
That's not part of the lore. Like just do it.
Not part of the lore yet.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Story in progress.
What do you think about these product placements in terms of like it being acceptable, for instance, in League of Legends having these banners that are now on the map? I haven't followed the development at all. I still remember, like, I think it was in 1.6 when we had them on the ground on maps or like sprayed to the wall or whatever. Do you think these things could be feasible? Because we have theorized on this broadcast, like we've already talked about, there's a bit of a disconnect in terms of like what the general audience has as language for specific positions on maps, whatever. Why is it not the Coca-Cola corner on King's Row,
Sure.
right? Something
Right.
like this.
'Cause I started gagging even hearing that.
I
The
go ahead, Arnold.
Coca-Cola corner.
I think this is just try more stuff, right? Like the fact that we haven't tried the Coca-Cola corner.
Yeah.
That's
We don't know.
You know,
Maybe
and
it's a
then
random idea.
and it's like those things where like, yeah, you're gonna try it, and people are gonna be like, oh, you sold out, you're terrible. Okay, it's like, okay, then don't do the Coca-Cola corner. Do something else, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Get rid of it quickly. Yeah.
yeah, like so
Oh,
that's
they listen to us. Yeah.
yeah. And
People
it's just
love
like,
that, dude.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, or you could meme it and like make it the Coca-Cola, like map. Just keep expanding on it until everything's Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a natural outcome that the esports broadcast, at least the esports broadcast, not the universe, but the esports broadcast is considered not part of the universe, not part of the lore, and has more product integrations.
Yes.
And how they do it, it should not just be straight up banners everywhere like you would see in the NBA.
Yeah, of course.
They need to do something that it could be integrated and a nod towards the game while still fulfilling the advertiser's goal. And, no esports league does a great job of it right now. And no developer does a great job of it right now. No creative does a great job. So to me, there's still a gap in almost every esports title between the publisher and the dev team and what the league and the esports wants, right? And that is a story that I think should actually be explored more, because I'm still trying to understand it a little bit better, but that definitely still exists, right? And figuring out like why that conflict exists, how you solve that conflict is something that I'm really interested in. I really want to try to like figure out over the course of, I don't know, probably that's like big project for this year, is like understand that world better.
To your point with the idea that, kind of talking about Overwatch in particular, but I think publishers in general, they do kind of like want to kind of create this insular, like, this is my IP. Like, I don't want to dabble with it too much. Completely the opposite direction is kind of this story around this very kind of obscure card game called The Legends of the Five Rings. And if I'm understanding the kind of early history of it correctly, it was this kind of small card game that had these tournaments that tied their lore and the story of their direction, or the direction of their story, to these in-game events, where whatever happened in these games impacted how the story would play out. So if this faction, or if this player, this real life player, used this faction or had some sort of play that was looked at as highly skilled or crazy luck or whatever it was, they tied it into the story to like integrate the legend of these players into the story, kind of immortalizing them, like, well, I actually did that. That's something that I think is like so far gone. Like, I don't think we'll ever get to that level.
Right.
But doing, I think CSGO does this, or Counter-Strike in general. They start to integrate like well-known plays to positions on the map, and they identify that with some sort of spray. And we could do that with, Profit and whoever, Carpe, doing all these crazy things. Like you could tie that to a sponsor. So it's not the Coca-Cola corner. It's the Coca-Cola signature spots, presented by all, State Farm, and you can tie it so it's not just there's a Coke sign there. It's there's a something tied to profit.
Yeah,
in this position.
The way I think about it is like on Hanamura, you like see the lore and then you see the like arrows from like the story of the lore.
Yeah.
Right. What if there was like a pulse bomb that Profit did, and we mark that spot and we have like a little explosion there, right? Maybe only on the esports broadcast map version or whatever. I don't know. Why not?
Just a nod. Just like, a little nod.
I think those kind of things start allowing you to engage the core hardcore fan base that would otherwise normally be like, screw you, how dare you bring Coca-Cola into this thing. But then if it feels like Coca-Cola is now enabling these moments to happen and saying, hey, we know you're a big Overwatch fan. We know this means the world to you. From a publisher side, we're going to take a step and say that this deserves a moment, and it's honestly paid for by Coca-Cola. Then I think everybody will be happy, right?
I think it's respecting the game through advertising almost, and it creates that alignment, right? It creates that like, we're Coca-Cola, and that snipe, that Widowmaker snipe was really sweet on point B, and we're memorializing that spot for
100%.
the rest of the stage, or for the rest of the season, or for whatever that looks like, is way more effective then we replaced all these beautiful Japanese banners with Coca-Cola signs on Hanamura. Like
instead of Sakura like leaves, it's like Coca-Cola bottles.
Yeah, exactly. Just hanging down.
Product placement out the.
Cheez-Its. There's just Cheez-Its all over. They're not. Yeah.
And you know what I would do? It's like I don't know if this is possible, but like if we need to bootleg it, I would just make a spray, and then just make somebody go spray it on the map before the map starts.
Yeah.
Workshop.
Have an observer run in there. And...
Yeah.
But there's so much. For instance, like what else you could do is like maybe for instance, like everyone probably remembers the Prophet 5K on Volskaya. And it starts with him killing Carpe from behind. What if every time a tracer runs through that, or occasionally a voice line pops up?
Right.
Not directly
just
on
like
the
a rare
nose
event.
Referencing this, but definitely going like, wink,
We
wink,
see you.
this happened.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and tying that into brand activations in some way, right? Like I don't have a great example how this could be done, but it's not like, for instance, I think the best way I can explain this is like a lot of people consider Red Bull to be a philanthropist for all kinds of crazy stuff that's going on in the world, right? Like it's just like, what? This guy wants to jump from space? Sure, Red Bull. Like that's like these types of things. And once you build the brand around these experiences, I think that can definitely work in some way. But just something that is very in character for Overwatch, something that feels natural, not just copy pasted from other scenes, but something that comes out of the game and is organic to the way this is played. And someone has to have their ear on the ground in the community in that regard, or listen to their creatives when they have those ideas. Like that's,
and
like,
it's
you're not going to have these ideas sitting in front of Excel spreadsheets, never having played Overwatch. That just doesn't happen.
There is like one additional dimension to that though, which is time, right? It's like you have to create a system that allows you from the time that amazing play happens to the time it's in the game has to be no more than 2 weeks, right? Like there's like, yes, you remember the Prophet 5K or whatever, but how do you...
It can't be a year, I tell you that. Like,
it can't.
That championship skin that takes a year is rough.
Yeah,
like,
so like the
you guys excited about the
turnaround-
Sinatra skins? You guys excited about the Sinatra skins?
Oof.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so like the marketing behind it too, like there has to be this faster turnaround and systems put in place to be able to, like, honestly create these kind of viral marketing moments. How cool would it be if like your team, like, you take a play of the game or a play of the match and you can immediately integrate that spot into the next match or into next week's match, or I think that's probably the easiest way. Voice lines are obviously much more complicated than that, but you can even make that down to, imagine if you could have voice lines based on like really good rivalries. So if you want to like play on like the Prophet Carpe type thing or whatever, and Prophet walks by the part where he died at Carpe last time, you get a little thing up on the screen and a voice line being like, well, hope I don't do that again or whatever. Like, hope that doesn't happen again. Like,
So. I think I'd love to see like a signature skin series where it does kind of have those Sinatra and Jonak, style personalized skins, but have those nods where it's like, oh, if the Jonak skin and the Sinatra skin kind of meet, they have some sort of dialogue that isn't necessarily influencing the game per se. So nothing popping up on your screen. I think that's a little too much, but just like a nod. I think people really like subtle, gestures towards things that you might like, or maybe that you're not interested in. It's like, oh, well, that's really rare. Like, I've never heard that voice line before. Why did I get that voice line? And you go through and you figure out, oh, it's about the Overwatch League. Well, I keep seeing it on Cheez-It ads and these, weird, product placements and grocery stores. Maybe I'll give this a chance because, again, I look at what Riot's doing and what League of Legends is doing and what maybe even Counter-Strike isn't doing necessarily, kind of, leaning on their laurels a little bit. But then I go to the grocery store and I see an end cap that just has the Overwatch League on it. It's like, that's what we got. All right, well, we got to do something different because I'm not watching this off of end caps of Cheez-Its, right? Like, that's not what I'm interested in.
Here you go, Joe. I got one. When you
Okay.
get a 5K,
Uh-huh.
you unlock the ability to do an emote. And
Sure.
the character says 5 guys and then just pulls out burgers and fries and starts snacking. Something like this, you know, like
I think you're onto something, tying it to like, you know, in-game performances or there's again, the possibilities are endless and there's so much you could do.
And I know from talking to like many dev teams across, you know, many different titles, a lot of this stuff takes a lot more effort
Oh, of
and
course.
resources than you would
of
imagine.
course.
But if you from the ground up build it to be able to be
Yeah.
this flexible and know that this is something that's part of your development cycle, it's a lot easier to do. So it's one of those things where if a publisher has a dev team that their main job is to support the esports side, it's just part of the normal development cycle that can be integrated and, you know, as part of like the launch process. Versus if it's a, hey, I'm already working on the Overwatch 2, right? Like if today I was like, all right, should this guy be working on the Prophet voice line or Overwatch 2? Prophet, I love you, but like, hey, no, just work on Overwatch 2. It's cool, you know? So you almost need to just allocate it, I think.
Sure,
and I think more publishers will. Like everything I've heard from different publishers has been that they all know that they need to do a better job of integrating the esports into the actual game, right? And I think you're going to start seeing more stuff happen. Timeline, I have no idea, but
sure,
it has to.
Like, that's tough.
It's really funny to me that the most effective piece of marketing for season 3 is crunch time from like the week 1.
Yeah.
The week 1 production issues.
The mishap.
Did more for Cheez-Its probably than any number of those segments have. And
accidental
so,
virality.
Yeah, and like there's or intentional virality.
I'm usually the conspiracy guy, but I'm not even touching that one.
No, neither.
I think to Arnold's point, like I think that that's kind of a shift that we're going to have to kind of wade through a little bit, where we're seeing this shift from esports just being a marketing arm, where it's like, hey, come try our game. We have all these competitions, to, okay, this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So what can we do with this? Like we built it. What do we do with you now? Like, how do we really integrate you into, you know, the idea of the game, or, you know, building, like you said, from the first floor, and having these processes and systems planned for, so that we don't get to the position where it's like, okay, well, I can either have Prophet voice lines or Overwatch 2. Well,
right. Yeah. No, 100%. I think that's exactly the conversations that are being had across the different leagues, across different publishers. Everybody's trying to figure out, like, okay, what's next? Because we know the current level of integration, like, it's not working. All right. Like, I play, especially during quarantine, I've been playing a lot of Overwatch, but I'm not seeing enough Overwatch League stuff, you know? And we should see it, right? Like, I see a lot of Dynasty skins, but like, that was from season 1, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's also because we didn't win the championship, so we don't get a custom skin. I get it. But, you know, I think just seeing it more in the game, then you have kind of a virtuous cycle, right? Where the game creates more viewers, the viewers become more engaged in the game, and you have like a virtuous cycle.
Yeah,
where,
that's what we hoped for. Even with like going all the way back to like the drama around like the divides of the subreddits, where it's like, oh, we have competitive Overwatch, and you know, we're gatekeeping out the Overwatch, you know, r/Overwatch fans, that, you know, we have to, Blizzard as a publisher and even content creators, we have to be able to bring in these, you know, more casual fans outside of just, well, you're from Philly, you got to cheer for Philly. Like, that's your some sort of duty. No, we need to bring these people in. It's not just the skins, because that just feels, you got to do it. It just feels like the bare minimum. With, you know, League doing it for years now, it's kind of just expected of you to kind of bring these skins in. So what else can we do? What more can we do? How do we iterate on that?
You know, one thing that I love, I told you I love competition.
Yeah.
I love Valorant coming into the scene, man.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, it's like you have two, you know, because Counter-Strike is its own thing, right? It's just in the stratosphere with like all these other things. But like now you have a real battle, even though it's not really a real battle because it's two different types of games with two different types of player bases, but whatever. Is like, even just the perception of it, like you get better by having other people trying different ideas, and you're like, wait, I got to do a different idea too. And you have more community cups, you have more tournaments, you have, you know, integrations within the game. Like like you need that competition, and you know, I don't know. You guys feel, but there hasn't really been anything before Valorant that like scratched any kind of like competitive itch for me. Like I play Fortnite for fun, but like not,
Yeah.
you know,
Like trying hard
to
I
rip
suck at it,
90s and-
right? You know,
yeah.
so you know, it's. I just think I hope we get to see more games come out, and that'll force. The end state is one where this problem solves itself because of the competitive aspect between these different publishers.
What I would hate, and I think it's probably inevitable with how, or the trajectory of esports, like, and again, talking ad infinitum, right? Like if with infinite time, we're going to see a game, and we probably already have, to be fair, be developed to be an esport rather than having it kind of naturally develop. And that's where I think like, that's like, or kind of, I'm not using the term correctly, but it's kind of Orwellian, where it's just like, that's when we've hit a wall where it's like, okay, we've gone too far from God's, you know, blessed light, and this is now some sort of corrupt nonsense, right?
I mean, these games exist. Like some of those games, like for instance, I think I don't want to ascribe any intention, but I'm pretty sure the Diabolical is created with
100%.
only esports in mind, right?
Sure.
Like, and we just don't have games that are specifically good at that.
Yes. And I think that's kind of its own market, where it's like, okay, I'm developing a competitive game that is geared towards esports. So you're bringing out these elements early, the replays, the spectator view, and making sure the observing team has their kind of niche things that they need to kind of show a broadcast, and having that from the ground floor up, and not just being something you tack on later. I think that that's going to just be its own development cycle. So maybe it's another whole genre that we're just, you know, talking about, where it's like we have the Diabolicals, and
I think you're onto something, because the change that I've seen, even in the last 3 years, was at first you have publishers and they're like, oh shit, we have esports now. What do we do?
Yeah.
Now, right from the ground up, they have esports divisions and arms, even in their dev team, that deal with esports. So it's kind of like integrating esports into the machine. And then at some point, the machine you integrated is its own machine, and there's probably going to be that wave that happens, right? So yeah, probably.
It's weird.
How have you received as Gen.G also this sort of gold rush that's happening with Valorant, in terms of like, we heard some of the salaries, like there are some salary offers on the floor. I cannot believe these numbers, not just of the ones that are already signed, but potential. So like, is there any sense to them, and how have you guys evaluated that?
I say, okay, so from our side, we're really excited about Valorant. We're really excited about the commitment that Riot has shown us, at least in, you know, our meetings with them, around really integrating esports as a core part of the game itself and the game success, right? That like maybe it's just a sales pitch, and I'm a sucker for sales pitches, but
Yeah.
I do believe that at the core, you got a lot of folks on the dev team in leadership positions that are super passionate about esports, right? That gives you a lot of safety in knowing that the direction of the success, that you, when you make a bet on the esport, that you're making a bet with the publisher on its success, that gives you some insight. Now, when it comes to the actual market for players, I was surprised to see a lot of people rush for big names, but sometimes they're not even that good, or like they're not proven. I would say I'm not to say they're not that good, but they're not proven in Valorant, because you can't be proven in Valorant right now, right? Like, and for us, like, we picked up a really amazing team, and you know, we were all surprised when people were like not even looking at these guys as aggressively as like some other teams that just had bigger names on for streaming. You know, just like what's going on here? Or like, we know this team has been grinding this more than anybody else. All the scrims, like internally, they've been placing higher than other teams, but why aren't they getting enough attention? And we got really lucky that we picked up such a great squad. I gotta learn more French if I'm gonna talk to them, but they're French Canadian. But yeah, I think a lot of it doesn't make sense. I think you're gonna see a lot of turnover happen.
Oh yeah.
So that's the thing, is that like, look, for our guys, we said like, look, I'm not saying you have a permanent spot at Gen.G. If, you know, one player isn't doing well, then, you know, we have to make roster decisions. Like, that's part of what you sign up for, but like, we're not looking at signing you just as a flash in the pan, you're a streamer for 1 month, and then we cut you because the contract is non-guaranteed. Like, that's my estimate on guess on what happened, is that people took a bunch of flyers and they assumed that they're going to cut them all at the drop of a hat once they figure stuff out. Maybe that's what's going on, or maybe they're just making bad decisions. I'm not sure.
Or they turn them into streamers, and even then, I don't know how
I feel like that's so dated, man.
Valorant is actually going the CS:GO route, where the individual streams probably aren't going to be like as huge of an attraction as they are in League, just by the nature of the game.
You can't talk while you're playing.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Like,
it's a terrible stream game.
I mean, it's a like when you're dead, at least you can.
Depends on how good you are. Yeah. The worse you are, the better streamer you are. It's
free time to talk. I show up, I'm dead. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah, but I think that justified it a lot in that regard. But I'm not sure if that's paying out, like just like transferring the pro player account into a streaming thing. Maybe it's even possible to say, well, you can variety stream now, please. Like, maybe that's.
I don't think that makes sense. Like, there's some solid talent out there, right? Like, Sinatra is going to be a big star. Like, there's real talent out there. Look, they deserve what they get, but I think there's a lot of people just kind of in a gold rush situation, and there's going to be the smart money and dumb money, right? Yeah. And that's what you're seeing when there's a gold rush, right? So it is what it is.
I mean, and I think that there's like, looking at it from like, I mean, obviously we're looking at it from a marketing side, but there are some like distinct advantages to like signing somebody who is maybe not necessarily tried and true, but is somebody who is a big streamer. Like, let's just say that that's something that you want to go for as an org. You get, number one, a ton more eyes on your organization. Number one. Number two, it's not that much more expensive, surprisingly, than just like sponsoring them outright. Like, if you tried to sponsor a big streamer to do it, like we've tried to sponsor streams in the past and tried to sponsor even just like flags and things, and it's not cheap. There's also there's also drawing talent to that. Be like, hey, you're going to be playing with Hiko on our squad, and so Hiko is your hook, and then they get your real players on there because they're going to be on Hiko's stream 40 hours a week and getting that additional stuff. And that's who you really want on your stream or on your team, but you've got Hiko there to kind of bring in the players who are hungry beyond just the gameplay itself and are committed to the stream and content. And then you also just have the slow burn until you actually have esports, right? Like, there's how many organizations have the burn rate to go from when the game goes live to when esports become the profitable part in that new game. So I think that there's still like a lot of, I still think a lot of it is dumb money, and a lot of organizations are just like, they go to the directory and go, that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy. There we go. We're done. And I think that that's a huge mistake, but I do think that there are a lot of organizations who actually really understand the eyeball aspect and the just kind of that initial flow of how do we be the Gen.G or the T1 of not Valorant anymore, but the next big game. How do we be one of those early adopter franchises and get some of these new eyes on our organization?
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with it. I just think, so for us, the way we approached it, so I can't say like other teams did the same thing, but either we believe in the esport and we want the best players who we think will be the biggest names in this game, or we don't believe in it, then we should go get streamers because it's going to be a flash in the pan for us and it's guaranteed viewership, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
For us, like I actually authentically believe in Valorant as an esport. I don't know what regions yet. That's a big question mark.
Sure.
Like, how big will it be in China and Korea and like those regions where it's like kind of just starting? But at least in the US and in Europe, it seems like this could be, to me, this is like the right bet to make. But for us, we were like, all right, we're going to go in the competitive thing. But it's also like for us, our DNA is not like, like a full-on entertainment company kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%.
So, we're like the nerdy guys out of
orgs.
esports. Yeah. We're definitely, like, one thing I realized out of all the esports organizations, we're definitely the nerdiest. Like, it's just the way it is, right? It's just who we are. Like, we like One Piece, and we, we're just
Sure.
just who we are, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think not. I don't want to derail a conversation if it's continuing. Yiska, did you want to follow up on anything with that?
I would have pivoted into talking about smart money potentially.
Yeah, I wanted to have the Chicken Little discussion.
This is the part of the discussion where you maybe have to stonewall your face, but okay. Let me ask this question differently. How do you enter the esports scene, or specifically Overwatch, and become smart in it? Because here's the problem. I think a lot of investors came in, had good intentions, got in with endemic orgs, and were woefully left alone or misrepresented or not given the proper advice to make this work. So what moves did you guys make in order to, okay, you guys, of course, or maybe you specifically, in order to sort of accustom yourself to this sector?
So kind of our philosophy is more about like what kind of people you bring on, because there isn't, like, esports is not that freaking complicated, man. Like, the cultural aspect, understanding it takes a lot of time.
Mhm.
So it's a time issue, right? And are you a present? A lot of it is just showing up, right? Like, so, what we did was, like, I was at that point, I was in San Francisco. We had this idea that we wanted to like be an esports organization, and we, just bought this Overwatch thing, and we were trying to figure it out. And I knew that we are gonna pick the Seoul spot. So yeah, I packed my stuff and got a place in Seoul, and like started meeting people and started talking to people, and started building a team out there, right? An organization out there, right? And I think just making sure that you're hiring people that want to learn quickly, that are intelligent, and that will listen to the actual community itself. And like, there's been many missteps we've had with the community of not listening, of not doing it on time, or not doing it right. But like, the right philosophy for us is like, whoever we're just gonna build this team that's gonna keep learning and keep figuring it out, and just like grind away at it, right? And I think the other side too is you also need that balance where you create enough of a space for the endemic people in esports to have an opinion that gets translated and digested in the organization, so that it actually gets, so change occurs in the organization, right? We were very lucky in that, we had League of Legends, we had Overwatch, we had Heroes of the Storm, RIP.
Too soon. Still not ready for that.
PUBG, like CS:GO now, like where we are like going deep into it, we're listening, and we're understanding it, talking to the players, and we're like just understanding it better, right? And that's one thing. I know we wanted to bring this up. Man, I honestly think, I don't know what the answer is, but like, people gotta talk to the players more. Like, especially the Korean players. The majority of the league is Korean, and nobody freaking talks to them, right? Obviously, there's a language issue, there's a cultural issue, blah blah blah. But like, I don't know how to solve that one, to be very honest with you guys. But I hope we can solve it, because I think these guys are nuts and they're hilarious.
Yeah.
But like, we're not seeing that even try to be translated onto the broadcast or onto,
We're seeing teams actively talk about stepping away from it because they're scared of trying to market that to the local scene. And again, I think it's so
I gotta be honest, I felt a way that they took streams away from Sparkle. Like,
yeah,
that is, I understand it from a competitive standpoint, but man, that, like, if your best player is that, and he does that as well, that's nuts, right? Like, he's the full package then.
Yeah, like, I think, look, I think a lot of orgs that are moving away from the Korean roster thing, I get it, because none of us have figured out how do we, show their personality and emotion, even, and not just on our freaking social media channels with just like a freaking 100K followers on Twitter, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
No, on the broadcast, right?
Yeah.
In Overwatch League. How are we actually showing the player personalities, right? Like, when's the last time we had a player interview with a Korean player?
I think Florida did one,
right?
Yaki, I think Yaki did one the other day, if I remember correctly. But again, like, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I get the feeling.
Yeah.
And we have like what, 55%
Yeah, it's
Koreans
almost
now?
half the league is.
So over, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you
it's-
know the other thing too is that like hire more people that speak Korean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
This has been
100%.
something
I
like
love
even
that-
going back to StarCraft. It's like we know at least you can always fall back on that they're good players. Like you can at least fall back on the championships, the high placings. But again, like a theme throughout this entire show has been like iteration. It's like just try and find out, like figure out a way to kind of tap into their personality and be able to showcase that to the fans and to humanize them, because they're not just, you know, I think we're hopefully, knock on wood, we're past this idea that the Koreans are just like this mindless like robot, you know, professional, you know, amazing esports, you know, machines. And they're people. Show that they're people. They're not just 55%.
Machines, yeah.
Yeah, sure. They're not just a statistic in the league. They're not just, you know, a person. I mean, they're not just a machine. They're a person and they have feelings and they have personality. It's like, give me a last dance of a team, not just these trife like cliched, you know, TSM knockoff reality shows that are half like just highlights. It's like, show me the realness. And I
Right.
think you unlock a lot.
Yeah, and look, even for us too, like this is a tricky situation for us, like because we want to do more, but given the practice schedule, it's hard for us to do it. So we need, you know, kind of a everybody. You got to show up to this thing, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass, and all the players are gonna be like, "Oh, I hate this. Why are we doing this?" But like, you got to do it. You know, that's part
Yeah.
of
Part
the
of being
game,
a-
right?
No, that's your job.
You
Yeah.
It's part of being an athlete.
The one thing that
Within reason.
that I learned that I kind of like really took to heart when I watched The Last Dance was when Jordan said, you know, I play this game for free. It's all the other shit that I get paid for.
Yeah.
You know, and like that to me is kind of the mentality that I think we should be trying to push. Is that like, you know, the game, everybody loves it, has a passion for it, and I never question people's passion for the game, right? But like, what they have, a lot of people are now realizing is that like the content is part of, that's the stuff where they deserve the salary.
That's
And,
work.
you know, a lot of the other thing, right? That's the work.
That's
That's the
the
stuff
work.
that nobody wants to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope for more, man. Like I also think it's on us too as an org, especially out of Seoul. Like we should be doing more. We should be telling better player stories. Like I should be showing up to more interviews, and podcasts and stuff. So yeah, we all gotta do better. It's not like I'm blaming the league or anything. It's like
No.
all of us gotta do a better job of like telling these stories. And we were surprised. So recently we're now sponsored by Douyu, which is a Chinese streaming platform. And they really wanted our players to stream on the platform. And they started doing it, and there was like a huge fan base, even though the game is maybe not that popular in China, like compared to League anyway, but like there's a huge fan base of our players there, and we realized, shit, like we should have done this earlier, you know. And like the players started getting into it, they get paid a little extra, you know.
Sure.
And so they were like, oh, like it clicked in my head, like, yeah, there's a lot that we could be doing better, you know, even to our Chinese audience, to the American audience, and you know, and everybody should.
100%. One last thing, because I know you know
Yeah, do it.
we're running out of time and we don't want to keep you for too long. I wanted to kind of double back on the smart money, bad money kind of topic, and I think there's this ongoing talking point within the esports space that we're probably due for a market correction. Is that a theory or idea that you prescribe to, that you know the salaries, the amount of money being sunk into this is just too high right now, and we're still chasing that funding and we're not really getting a return? Or is there just not enough suits coming on and talking about like the reality of things? Do you think there's a market correction incoming?
So I haven't really reformulated this theory or thought that I had in my head, but I had prescribed from last year. I was saying that the winter is coming, the esports winter is coming, and I still believe it will. As in, there's going to be a lot of organizations, and there's going to be a lot of leagues that no longer exist in the next 2-3 years, right? And I think you're now seeing it. So my view is that you're going to see more consolidation and a clear separation of the leagues, the teams, and probably the players that matter. So you're going to have fewer leagues, fewer teams, right? And so you're going to have fewer players, unfortunately, right? But maybe those top salaries get even higher.
Sure.
but it means fewer people get professional salaries in esports because there's going to be fewer teams around. Because I think there's a lot of teams that are really struggling right now, that aren't selling sponsorships, that aren't creating new business lines, and yeah, I've 100% believe that a lot of esports teams, a lot of esports leagues that aren't working, they won't be around, right?
And just to kind of qualify that, this isn't because of COVID. This is only expedited because of COVID, right?
I think COVID actually gave an excuse, but it's not
exactly.
It's
That's why I want to clarify.
COVID. Right. Yeah, the trends were already happening. So that's one thing that I think is the other pattern that I've noticed has been what COVID does. It fast forwards patterns and meta patterns that were already in place, right?
Yeah.
You knew that launching movies only in theaters made no sense, right?
Yeah.
But
Antiquated.
now with this happening, now they're on Netflix. Now they're launching on Netflix or on iTunes simultaneously. That's the new business model. It like took the shift, right?
Yep. Yeah.
You knew that retail stores, like, why does Sears still exist? I don't know, but like it just it fast forwarded.
Or else am I gonna get my riding mower?
I hope I hope our sales team is not pitching.
Check
There
Sears
goes all
off the
Sears
list.
esports.
Yeah.
Our Sears
But it's
esports
fast-
corner on Numbani.
But it's fast forwarded everything that had to be done, or it from the average viewer of baseball is 60 years old, right? All the traditional sponsors are like, well, yeah, we should probably do something digital now, and so they've now shifted to now focus on it. So to me, in a lot of the things that I'm noticing, it's actually fast forwarded the trends that were already in place, and it also made the trends harsher and more difficult to deal with.
Sure.
Right? So it just tilted you, right? So it's kind of like the Shumter's like creative destruction thing, where you're gonna see the clear separation, and it's gonna be scary. People are gonna lose their jobs.
Yep.
People are gonna, but it's one that is necessary for us to be successful as an industry.
I think we'll come out the end a better system. I think we'll come out much better for it.
Yeah.
Weird.
And I think the one thing that I should say is that like everybody got to help each other when they lose their job or whatever. Like 'cause everybody goes through it at some point or some version of it. So everybody's got to at least like look out for each other and really meaningfully help each other, right?
100%.
What a hopeful little note to end on. Help each other.
I've been reading all these like self-help like actualization books,
I love it. No, it was great. Arnold, before we do like sign off for the day, we always love to give our guests on the show an opportunity to give a message out to the Seoul Dynasty fans, the Gen.G fans who tuned in. So many of you in chat, by the way, and tuning in. Thank you so much for hanging out and being here. Hope you had fun. But take a brief moment and kind of, a little message to your fans, if you will.
Look, I just want to say, especially to the fan base, like, you guys are incredible. The stuff that I've seen, the cheering, telling us we suck, like every single piece, like I wake up so excited every morning. I know our staff wakes up every morning so excited because of the fans. So, I just want to thank all our fans, and I know sometimes we don't have the competitive success, but they've stuck through. And, one thing that we can promise is that we're 100% committed to making sure that we put a good product out there for you guys. And, I think you're going to see like a lot of cool stuff coming from us. So be excited, be loud, tell us when we're doing stuff wrong. And yeah, feel free to message me, feel free to tweet at me, like all that kind of stuff, because we're here, we're listening, and we're trying our best. And we love working with you guys. So, and we love the community. So please make sure to also support the community and all the content that these guys are producing, because that's really the one area that I think we haven't done enough of a good job on, and we're gonna do a better job on it.
Make me all teary-eyed. I also said this is the first interview I think that we've ever done where I actually we've had guests ask us questions. Brought a little tear to my eye. It's so wholesome.
Because I watch you guys and I always like want to ask stuff, but like I'm like, oh, it's a YouTube, so I'm just like, oh, I can't ask anything,
DM's open.
Yeah, weird.
It's true. We do. Yeah, we do. We'll answer them. Let's get out of here though. We do need to get out of here. Arnold, you're at Arnold WH on Twitter. Anywhere else that people can follow you, stay in touch?
Instagram AWON23. Trying to get more follows, trying to farm some clout.
There you go.
But no, anywhere is fine. But thank you guys, really appreciate it. It's awesome, and glad we get a chance to do this, and hopefully we get to do a lot more cool stuff.
Yes, hope so too. Dang it! Every time I have a guest on, I just want to go buy a jersey. I'm like,
dude, every time I'm just sold even harder.
He has a problem. He actually has a problem.
I have an issue. Yeah, I have an issue. Before we get into the sign-offs and everything else like that, big thank you to our patron producers: Battlecry Pin Lotion, Charlie L, Audio Compass, Pork Chop, Sammy, Kasha67, Kushikopi, Shara Picasso, Nathan Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Refine Bean, Rex, Zane, Roger B, Fabled, Steven, and Owen. Yo, I got at least 7 or 8 names.
Rap God.
I've got like 7 or 8 names more names that I can do, I think, on that one. If you like the show, want to support our little podcast of love, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. We would love it a ton. Joe, we got some new patrons, don't we?
New patrons are Connor B, Roger B, who upped his pledge to producer. So thank you very much for that. Fabled Steven upped his pledge to producer as well, or up their pledge. And Owen, thank you guys so much for your patronage.
Owen is a producer.
Owen is a producer as well. So thank you guys for coming in and dropping the love. Appreciate it.
No foreskin 420 this week.
No memes this week. No drops.
Yes, last week Yiska threw foreskin 420 into the new patrons thing and made
as I'm reading it.
Joe read it. We didn't even
scoundrel.
skip a beat. Yiska, what do we have for new subs?
So new subs. Frodinho, friend of the show, watched Overwatch League with us. By the way, if you want to hang out, we are pretty much always watching even the Asia games because European time zones are actually pretty awesome like this year. Actually really enjoying it. And then Grow Roots, which I recognize to be a guy who only communicates in emojis. So
and subs.
Thanks for the sub.
And emojis
subs,
and
yes,
subs.
true.
That's the only way that they communicate. Yeah. Cool. No new 5-star iTunes review, but if you're like, hey, I can't send you guys money, how else can I support? Go to iTunes and leave a 5-star iTunes review and leave a little message, and we'll thank you on the next show. You can find me everywhere at twitch.tv/KickedTripod, twitter.com/KickedTripod. I actually have a dedicated creator Facebook page now. Did you know that was a thing? I don't know. Got to get that 50+ demo up there, And
it's weird.
Dude, Facebook,
I don't want to care about these.
I don't. Yeah,
but
yeah.
Their CTR is nuts.
Nuts.
It's actually nuts.
Nuts.
It's
Instagram.
insane.
I'm doing Instagram as well now. At KickedTripod, and I do have my own YouTube now. So you can find the show. No TikToks because I value my privacy. Although I guess Facebook, it doesn't really matter. Really. But let's be real. TikTok is like the most unhealthy social media tracking type thing I've ever seen.
What
in my
a boomer! What a boomer!
Never seen. No. We're millennials get it too. Millennials don't get TikTok either. That's just straight up Gen Z Zoomer type stuff. No TikToks, but who knows? Maybe a TikTok. I have a TikTok. I just haven't TikToked.
Ooh.
Haven't TikToked. I mainly just send inappropriate ones to my wife.
I think we should crowdsource the TikTok dance that you do next. That's what's gonna happen.
It. That's the content. All right, that's the content. But yeah, I do have my own YouTube channel now, and I'm actually doing my first ever product review of a brand new audio product that hasn't been released yet, and the company reached out and asked me to review it. So that'll be on Thursday. I don't even have a URL for it yet. I think I don't even just search for KickedTripod on YouTube now, I guess. I don't have a URL and I haven't made a pretty one for it yet. So yeah, sorry that took so long. Joe, shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
You can find me on all the socials. It's at Volamel everywhere. This week, a lot of Overwatch. Valorant is still kind of seeding the eSports land, so we'll get to that. We'll revisit that when the time comes. But got a profile of a player that's doing very well currently, coming this weekend. and a couple meta pieces talking about, things around the league, not necessarily players, but just around and in the league. So stay tuned for that.
Which
I'll make
Seoul
sure.
player is going to be inconsistent this week?
Oh, no. Nobody's inconsistent. Nobody's lazy. No shade here. No shade for me, at least not until, we'll see what next
Not until
week
this
after
all
ranks.
blows over. I get it. All right.
Sure.
Yiska, what about you? Shoutouts for the week. Where can people find you?
So in terms of Overwatch, I have one feature I'm kind of looking forward to. Got a bunch of coach feedback there. It's on the necessity of breaks. Just like asking how they used it, what it did to them, and kind of lobbying for them as well. And there will also probably be a feature on. I mean, I can talk about it like in my opinion, underrated player for a while, Void, and we'll see what else.
The GOAT. Just kidding. We'll see. Cool. All right, chat. We are out of here. Hope you had a ton of fun today. Find us everywhere at Tactical Crouch, twitter.com/tactical_crouch. Big thank you again to Arnold for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Had a ton of fun. And we'll have to do it again soon. We will see you Wednesday for our preview of Summer Showdown Week 2. Bye, guys. Bye.
Hey, guys. Bye-bye.